Hello everyone, Iissham here, and we are back with another video in the series of how to get Gladiator on a Resto Shaman. And in today's episode, we're going to be going over talents you need to consider, macros, add-ons, and just some general key binding tips. Also, just a quick reminder, if you're new to the channel and want to see more useful content such as this, remember to subscribe to the YouTube channel and turn the notification bell on so you will never miss a future episode. And with that being said, let's jump right into the guide.
To say the words to remember. Now we're here to take control.
Alright, hello everyone. So to begin the talent section of this video, we're going to touch on the standard Resto Shaman talents first, and then we'll move on to the PvP talents afterwards. So for the first level 15 tier, we have either Torrent, and this just increases the initial heal from Riptide. We have Undulation, so every third healing wave or healing surge heals for an additional 50%. Then we have Unleashed Life, which does an initial heal as well as increases your next heal by 35%. When it comes to this tier, your main decision is going to be between either Undulation and Unleashed Life. However, we're going to talk on Unleashed Life first, and then we'll move over to the other choices. Unleashed Life is going to be overall your best choice when it comes to this tier. It has low mana cost, low cooldown, as well as it just does a ton of additional healing. It increases your next heal by 35%, which is super beneficial, as well as it pairs nicely with Spirit of Preservation, allowing you to always get a super big healing surge off if you need. So overall, you can pick this every single game and you'll be fine. The next one is more kind of a niche pick, and that is going to be Undulation. Now every third healing wave or healing surge heals for additional 50%. This is going to be good in very specific matchups. So let's say you're playing against a melee cleave like a Windwalker DH or maybe a Ret Warrior, and you can just sit in the back all game. You know they're just going to train one target, so this allows you just to sort of PvE heal in the background, just spamming out healing waves because you want to be, efficient with your mana usage. You can make an argument that Undulation would receive a little more value in situations like that, but again, you could also just use Unleashed Life and be completely fine. Now with Torrent, it's just not really good anymore. Back in the day when Riptide healed more, as well as we would usually have 2 charges, maybe sometimes 3, when we would pair Echo of the Elements with Rippling Waters, which is no longer in the game anymore. There's a lot more benefit to using Torrent. You basically didn't have to cast, just using your Riptides. However, that is no longer the case, since Riptide doesn't heal as much, and we only have 1 charge usually. So it just makes it Torrent pretty useless in this state of arena. Now we'll go over to the second tier, the level 30 tier. We have Echo of the Elements, which gives your certain abilities 2 charges. We have Deluge, your Healing Wave, Healing Surge, and Chain Heal the target for an additional 20% if they have Riptide or they're in healing range. Earth Shield increases your healing on the target with the shield by 10%, and whenever they take damage, they are healed by a certain amount. You have 2 decisions, sort of like the first one in this tier. It's going to be either Echo of the Elements or Earth Shield. Unfortunately, with Deluge, with all the purges that there are in the game, and we only have 1 Riptide like I said, and you won't typically cast Healing Rain in Arena, this just makes Deluge pointless for Arena, as you won't get the additional benefit of that 20% healing too often. So with Echo of the Elements, it can be okay. If you are finding it hard to maintain an Earth Shield on a specific target, or there's a lot of spread pressure, Echo of the Elements actually does okay. Giving you that additional Riptide, the additional Healing Stream Totem is really nice, and it can increase your overall healing output. Like I said, maybe if you're fighting a Shadow Priest and Destro Warlock, and you just find it really hard, and it consumes a lot of additional mana to constantly refresh your Earth Shield all game. So in a situation like that, Echo of the Elements would certainly be okay, but usually overall, Earth Shield is just going to be the best choice. It does so much additional healing, and it also increases the healing you do on the target by 10%, which is huge, and provides some dispel protection. So usually Earth Shield, you could run it every single game and you'd be fine. But Echo of the Elements, sort of more of a niche pick, sort of like Undulation. But if you are having a hard time with Earth Shield and you want to try something new, Echo of the Elements definitely is an okay choice. Next, at the level 45 tier, we have Spirit Wolf. It increases your movement speed by 5% and your damage reduction by 5%, stacking up to 4 times, so you can get an additional 20% movement speed and 20% damage reduction on your Ghost Wolf. And we have Earthgrab Totem, which is just going to be a root, and then we have Static Charge, reduces the cooldown of your Capacitor Totem by 5 seconds. For each enemy it stuns up to a maximum reduction of 20 seconds. Now again, this is going to depend purely on matchup. Spirit Wolf is going to be super strong against melee cleaves that just want to train you as you become sort of a mini bear form, as it were. This is especially good if it's a melee cleave that doesn't have purge. You know, when you're flying in Ghost Wolf, when you have this up and you have Spectral Recovery as well as Pack Spirit, it makes it super difficult for you to actually die when you're playing into a melee cleave, because you take 20% reduced damage if you have Earth Shield on yourself. You're taking additional healing. Pack Spirit is going every 0.9 seconds. And then you have Spectral Recovery, which is healing you a bunch every 2 seconds. It just makes it a really great option if you do find yourself getting trained a lot, as well as if you are queuing into an RMP or something. You can try to pre-Ghost Wolf their go, and it will help provide you that little extra bit of healing and damage reduction that you need in order to live the swap without using too much. The next is going to be Earthgrab Totem. If you feel like the team isn't going to go you, and you think the extra root, or maybe the only root on your team is going to be of use to you, then use the Earthgrab Totem. It's really useful against melee cleaves. You can root like a DH and he'll be stuck there. You can prevent a go on you by rooting DPS and then running away, creating distance. So it just depends on your matchup between these two. I would say that they are both evenly good. It just depends on the matchup, like I said, that you're going to queue to. So on this tier, we have Ancestral Vigor, which increases the health by target by 10%. Ancestral Protection Totem, which is a res totem. And then we have Earthen Wall Totem. This one, you just want to pick Earthen Wall every single time. The 10% buff for 10 seconds doesn't matter, considering you get CC'd once and this is going to fall off, making it useless. This is dumb and really gimmicky. You're going to get way more value out of Earthen Wall Totem overall throughout a match, so you should just stick to Earthen Wall Totem. Next tier, the level 75 tier, it's going to be Nature's Guardian. Is when you dip below a certain percentage, you instantly heal for 20% of your maximum HP. We have Graceful Spirit, reduces the cooldown of Spirit Walker's Grace by 60 seconds, increases your movement speed by 20% while it's active. And then you have Windrush Totem, summon a totem at the target location for 15 seconds, continually granting all allies who pass within 10 yards 60% increased movement speed for 5 seconds. So this one is going to be between two choices, and again, it depends what your preference is, it depends what you're comfortable with. If you feel like you are just dying in swaps constantly, then Nature's Guardian is going to be of use to you. 20% heal is a really huge amount of HP, and it might provide you with just that little bit of extra defensive utility that you need in order to survive. And Graceful Spirit, if you're finding teams won't go you and you're having a hard time juking, it's going to be really awesome, because this paired with Aura Mastery, it gives you a 1 second or a 1 minute cooldown Aura Mastery and 20% movement speed on top of that, so it's really good for that, as well as getting CC. Let's say you're playing against a Mistweaver and no one has kicks, you could just pop your Spirit Walker's Grace, chase after the Mistweaver who's going to roll around, constantly, and this will make it a little bit easier to maybe snag that hex, which could cement you the W in the end. Windrush Totem is bad. It's a 2-minute cooldown. It can die. There's lots of slows in arena, so the 60% increased movement speed isn't really good, and yeah, just really long cooldown. So it's just going to be between these two choices, and again, use Nature's Guardian if you feel like you're dying a lot in swaps. Use Graceful Spirit if you're having a hard time juking, or you need a little extra assistance trying to get CC. The level 90 tier is going to be Flash Flood. When you consume tidal waves, the cast time of your next heal is reduced by 20%. Downpour, a burst of water at the target location, heals up to 6 injured allies within 12 yards for 31,000. Cooldown is increased by 5 seconds for each target effectively healed. Then we have Cloudburst Totem. Summon a totem at your feet for 15 seconds that collects power from all of the healing spells, and then it will redistribute it to everyone in your group. So when it comes down to this tier, it is going to be Flash Flood. When you consume tidal waves, the cast on your next heal is reduced by 20%, so that's just really strong. Resto Shamans typically don't stack too much haste, so the extra 20% cast time reduction on a heal is really significant, and overall it just elicits a lot more healing output than the other ones. Like Downpour is just a way worse version of your one Azurite weapon ability in Legion, the one that did the AoE rain that was instant. Or not instant, but it didn't cost any mana. It's just way worse than that one. And Cloudburst is actually okay. It's not as good as it was in WoD, and it has those drawbacks as well, because if someone sees you playing Cloudburst and they know how it works, they'll just snipe it instantly, and then you won't get any benefit out of it. So for this tier, play Flash Flood and you won't regret it. The next tier is also pretty one-sided. It's High Tide. Every 40k mana you spend brings a High Tide, making your next 2 chain heals heal for additional 20% and not reduce with each jump. Wellspring creates a surge of water that flows forward, healing friendly targets in a wide arc in front of you for 34,000. And then Ascendance, transform into Water Ascendant, duplicating all healing you deal for 15 seconds and immediately healing for 157k. Ascendant healing is distributed evenly among allies within 20 yards. So when it comes to the final tier, Ascendance is just the best. It's practically your only healing cooldown as a Resto Shaman. It's a long cooldown, but when you use it, it'll basically prevent, your team from dying, which is huge. As well, if you're getting really low and you need an instant heal, you don't have Spear Link or anything like that, you can just use Ascendance. And if the other team doesn't have MS and you're low health and this crits, it can literally heal for 400k plus, which should instantly top you. So it's just super impactful. It's just a super powerful spell. So yeah, High Tide, just not really worth it. Too much mana to be spending, and 20% increased heal on chain heal is just not that impactful. Then Wellspring, even though it's an okay little heal, it's pretty quick, 20-second cooldown. The mana cost is just way too much. It's 4k mana, so that makes it more expensive than Healing Surge, and it just doesn't do nearly enough healing for Arena for it to be viable. So for this last tier, just pick Ascendance and you'll be fine. Alright, so now that we're done talking about the standard Resto Shaman talents, let's go over to the PvP ones, and let's start off by going over the Trinkets. This is your standard Trinket. This has a 2-minute cooldown, and it removes all CC on you. This is great in every single situation for Resto Shaman. You could pick this every game and be fine. However, with the next 2 choices, they are a little more niche, but they could potentially provide you with a slightly bigger advantage over a Trinket depending on what you're queuing into. Adaptation removes any CC on you that is 5 seconds or longer, so a 3-second cheap shot won't proc it, however a kidney shot would. This is a 1-minute cooldown. Adaptation is good against very specific compositions. I like to play Adapt as an orc against things like Hunters, because if I get stunned into trap, the stun won't proc the Adapt because of my orc racial, which reduces the length of stuns on me, and then I will just get out of the trap more often than a normal Trinket. This paired with a Ret, for example, is really nice because a Ret can get you out of stuns and then you get out of the trap. It's a very nice synergy to have against Hunters specifically, but remember, do not play Adapt against Rogues, because if they sap you, it will proc Adaptation and then they can sap you again, rendering Adapt completely useless against them. So if you want to try Adapt, just be careful about using it into Rogues. The next one is going to be Relentless. So Relentless reduces effective CC on you by 20%. This doesn't stack with things like Orc stun reduction. However, Relentless is really good against comps where you do not have to worry about needing Trinket Link, and the opposing comp has a bunch of CC. Things like Mage Lock Healer or Sub RMP, you may gain more value out of using Relentless over Trinket, potentially reducing the overall CC on you by the time the game is over by a lot. And now let's go on to the other PvP talents. So right now this is just sort of my standard PvP build that I use. I go into most games using this, but I do switch them up when it's necessary. So I'm just going to go through every single one of these talent choices so you know which ones to swap in, which ones to swap out, depending on your matchup or depending on the composition you are playing. So let's start with Sky Fury. Sky Fury increases the effect of crit damage and crit healing by 20%. So basically, if you do a crit heal or a damaging effect that crits, if you have Sky Fury down, that ability will do 20% more. This is really good if you're playing with a Fire Mage, because if they combust, you know, their critical strike goes up to 100%. So they just get a flat 20% damage increase with their combust, which is super nice to a Fire Mage. If you were playing with a Destro Warlock, since all their Chaos Bolts naturally crit, if you use Sky Fury before they Chaos Bolt someone, it does 20% more damage, making their bolts more threatening with and without cooldowns. Sky Fury is also good with a Boomkin and a Frost DK, so maybe consider playing it if you are playing 2s or 3s with those specific classes. Counter-Strike Totem reflects some of the damage the enemy players do. However, now it has a damage cap, so it's not worth it to play. I would recommend you do not touch Counter-Strike Totem in Arena. The next one is going to be Swelling Waves. This duplicates a healing surge cast on yourself for 50% of the initial heal. This is good in 2s if you're getting trained by melee DPS and you need to cast a lot. If you get, for example, a 300k healing surge on yourself and you have Swelling Waves, then 3 seconds later you will be healed for an additional 150k, which is huge. So if you need some help in 2s or 3s while getting trained, this talent is definitely good. Voodoo Mastery makes your hexs a 10-second cooldown. This is really nice in 3s if you are playing against a melee cleave that doesn't have a curse dispel, like a Ret Warrior Mistweaver or a DK Mistweaver. You can shut down a lot of damage by hexing the off target, and they have to sit it because they don't have a curse dispel. It acts basically like a clone in those situations, and it's also really fun to be able to hex someone DR. The next one is going to be Electrocute. Electrocute applies a dot whenever you purge something, dealing damage over 3 seconds. Consider using this if you don't need some of the more crucial talents like Grounding Totem or Aura Mastery. This is nice in 2s and 3s if you're going against a Resto Druid or maybe a Disc Priest, and you think that you need a little more damage to help you pull out a W. Spirit Link is really bad, don't use it. Whenever you use it, it costs 12% of your mana, so it'll you super quick. It's just really hard to get value out of this anymore, so do not use this ability. The next one is going to be Tidebringer. Tidebringer is really powerful for Resto Shamans. If you use this, it will make Chain Heal probably your number 1 or 2 heal consistently. With that being said, I usually do not play this because mana is such a concern for Resto Shamans, and Chain Heal is the most expensive heal you have. If Resto Shamans become too reliant on this ability, they will really quick, ending the game earlier than if they didn't play it. So if you are struggling to heal, give this ability a try. If you aren't, do not play this ability. And again, just remember, if you play this, you have to be careful that you don't yourself instantly. The next one is going to be Spectral Recovery. While in Ghost Wolf, you heal 3% of your health every 2 seconds and increases the movement speed of your Ghost Wolf by an additional 10%. This is amazing when it's paired with Spirit Wolf and Pack Spirit, making it really hard for melees and 2s or 3s to kill you if you're using this. If you are not getting trained or they have spam purge for your wolf, this talent loses a lot of its value. So make sure you're using this against teams that can't purge your wolf over and over and over again, and you know for sure that they will go you. Cleansing Waters. Your Chain Heal and Healing Rain spells have a 20% increased chance to critically heal. When they crit heal, the target is dispelled of all harmful magic effects. So this is super good in RPGs, however, it does not really have that much value in 3s anymore. If you randomly dispel against a Shadow Priest Destro, for example, it could put your team further behind. If you do it when you're the only person on your team that has a stop, and then you use it, you crit, and you dispel a Shadow Priest dot, and now you're CC'd and you weren't anticipating that, well then the enemy team gets free damage off, and then that could potentially cost you a game in the end. So it's okay in very specific matchups, like against an Earthgrab and Boomkin, when there's no, negative effect to dispelling their dots. However, it doesn't have that much value in 3s anymore. The next one is going to be Grounding Totem. Grounding Totem is going to be a must against old casters, as it prevents a huge amount of CC and it can prevent huge damage. Also good against melees like ferals when you have to ground Clone, or Rets with Hodge, you know, you can ground DK's Mind Freeze. So basically I recommend you use Grounding Totem against anything that has spells. The last one is going to be Ancestral Gift. This is really nice talent choice as it gives you Aura Mastery. This is also mandatory, I would say, if you're healing melee cleaves against things like Double Caster. Since the opposing team only has to kick you, it makes it really valuable when playing, when healing melee cleaves rather. However, you can get away without using this if you are playing with wizards, because they can maybe be tanking some kicks for you, or if you're just really confident in your juking ability. This is also really nice when it's paired with Graceful Spirit, because it gives you that 1 minute cooldown Aura Mastery. Alright, so this section is going to be about macros. Now, this section is going to be fairly quick. With that being said, do not worry if you miss any of the macros. I'm going to post all the macros that I think you'll need in the description of the video below, so you can copy and paste any of the macros you want, just so it's a little easier for you guys, so you don't have to stop the video, go to your macros, and write out everything perfectly. And with that being said, let's get into it. Now, I'm just going to preface this by saying a lot of the macros you might not find of use to you, because remember, so I just do my normal targeting for my party members, but then when I actually target the enemy players, I only use focus. Now, I think as a healer, it's really important to do that, because it's a lot more efficient, because if I want to target an enemy player, I don't have to de-target the person I'm healing, which makes it a lot easier. So if I have, you know, my teammate targeted, I can heal them while like tossing a flame shock on the person or purging the person, and I can still worry about healing this person. So it's just a lot quicker like that. I'm actually surprised a lot more healers don't do it that way. But anyways, that's why I have a lot of focus macros, in case you are wondering. So we're just going to start off. This is just a standard Earthgrab Totem. So this, it has the @ cursor. I just like it more similar with my Spirit Link macro that I'll show you later. I just have to point my cursor, and as soon as I push the macro, it's going to instantly root wherever my cursor is. None of this like my Earthbind you see here. I was going to change my Earthbind, I don't know why I haven't. That and my cap are the only ones that I haven't switched over yet. But it just makes it a lot easier, so you can get quicker roots, you can get quicker links. It's not mandatory, but it does help for, again, the quicker ability. So that was just the normal placement. And then if we look at my link, it's just instant. And that's what this Earthgrab macro would look like. The next, this is just a stop casting Grounding Totem macro. I really like this because if I'm casting something and I see a mage casting sheep, I just hit my Grounding Totem twice, cancel the spell, and then drops Grounding Totem. It makes it really nice, especially if you have Spirit Walker's Grace up and you're casting. And if you don't have this macro, you have to wait till your heal finishes, or you have to hit a different button to cancel your heal. So that's why I like this macro. This is a Dispel Self. Again, really useful, so I don't actually have to target myself. I can be targeting one of my teammates, I can target an enemy, and then I can just dispel myself, which is really nice. So I recommend having a Dispel Self macro. This is the Add Cursor Spirit Link Totem. I just showed you what it did, so it just makes for really quick Spirit Links. And this is just going to be your standard Shear 1, 2, 3. I put stop casting in all my Shear 1, 2, 3s because, again, if I'm casting something and if I see a mage casting sheep, I don't have to jiggle and then shear. I can just go like this and push my shear, and it gets it immediately, which is really nice. Then I have my hex 1, 2, 3, and this is going to be the same for all the 1, 2, 3s. You just have to change the arena in there. Next, these are going to be your Dispel Macros for your teammates over here. I like it because, again, you don't have to just target a different teammate. So I can have a different teammate targeted, see someone else got sheep, push that macro without having to detarget. So it's just a little thing that makes it quicker. Again, this is my Focus Flame Shock. This is a Focus Hex. Focus Lava Burst. Focus Lightning Bolt. I do like this one because when I play with Reed, for example, I have the Cancel Aura Blessing of Protection in there. So if we're playing against an RMP, he bops with my blind or stun, I can just cancel the bop instantly so the mage doesn't purge it. This is just if you're playing Panda. Again, if you target how I do, it's a Focus Panda Stun. Then this is just a Focus Purge. Again, stop casting, and if for some reason I'm casting something like a Holy Pally does, his Aura Mastery, I can immediately just stop what I'm doing and try to purge it. Stop casting Tremor Totem. Again, same reason why I have stop casting in all my stuff. I'm casting Healing Surge and I see a Warlock casting Fear, then I can just drop this and it stops the spell and I don't have to hit some other button to do it. This is my stun. I like it, just makes my UI look a little bit nicer, although I don't even have this on my bar. Usually this goes somewhere over here. Oh, it's right there. That's what this one is. I do need to clean up my UI. It's a little messy. And this is just to make my UI look a little bit nicer again. Random Dispel one. This is for my UI. And that's basically all the macros that I have. I do have an Earthen one. And that is right here. So again, it's add cursor, just so I can get really quick Earthens. It's not mandatory for all of your totems, but I do like it with Earthen and I do like it with Spear Link, just because those are your really important ones. And sometimes the 0.1 second difference it takes to get it off will make the difference in someone living or not. So that's why I have it for those. Again, if you want to see this one, there it is. And that is basically all my macros that I have. I mean, I have a Focus Claw macro. And I believe that is it for all my macros. So I'll put that in the description box below for my macros. And now we're going to go into the next segment.
I just need to clear my head, focus.
Alright, so I'm just going to touch on the add-ons that I use very quickly. So Purify GCD, this is just the add-on that shows the GCDs that I use and it shows them up here. I only have this add-on for my YouTube videos so my viewers can appreciate or see the spells that I'm doing so they can better determine what abilities they should use in specific situations. So I don't recommend you use this, but again, it's okay to mess around with. Recount, I really like Recount because it shows things like damage, mana gained, interrupts, healing done, things like that. I really like Recount because it can help show me how I'm min-maxing things, if I need to do specific things differently when it comes to interrupts or healing, as well as it can potentially show my teammates other things that they could be doing differently as well. Then I have Omnibar, and this is just going to track all the interrupts and CCs that the enemy has. I really like Omnibar and I recommend that you use it as well, just because you don't have to guess if you juke to kick, or you don't have to guess when the enemy has a defensive up. So I really like this and I think it's mandatory to have for PvP. Big debuffs, I really like this because, for example, if I wind shear someone, it shows on their frame that I actually kicked them, because nothing is worse than thinking you kicked a mage on polymorph and then getting full locked out and having someone on your team die after that. So I really do like that one. And the last one is going to be right here, Gladiator, and I do recommend you use this for PvP because it's just nice and you can adjust the frames wherever you want on your screen. So it's really nice to have. You can adjust the cast bars, you can make them super big if you want, you can make them super small, you can get rid of specific things, and it just makes it easier to see what the enemy team is doing. So I do recommend you use Gladiator for Arena, and that is going to be all the add-ons. But now, let's talk about keybinding tips, because lots of people ask me, oh, why do you keybind this? Why do you keybind that? Now, when it comes to keybinding, I recommend a really important tip is keeping things consistent between all your classes. So as you can see here, I have Shear 1, 2, 3 and I have a Hex 1, 2, 3, and that's going to be consistent on all my classes. So When I play mage, I have CS 1, 2, 3 on the same button. I have sheep 1, 2, 3 on the same button as my hex. You know, Earthen's a pretty good defensive. And on Q, I have disperse on my Shadow Priest. I have PS when I play disc. I have ice block on my mage. So really important things like that I keep there. When I heal, for example, I have all my trinkets on the same spot. When I DPS, I have my trinket on the same spot on all my DPS. So that's the first tip I can give to you. Keep your key bindings throughout your classes consistent, whether it's offensive cooldowns, kicks. That way it's easier to remember, and it makes it easier swapping over to a different class if you have similar buttons on similar things. That way you don't accidentally fat finger something if you're playing a different class. Now, when it also comes to keybinding, there's going to be specific things I recommend you keybind, and that is going to be targeting. I recommend you have your party members targeted. You have those keybound just so you're quicker, because I know some healers get away with clicking, but it is a lot more efficient, because nothing is worse than you have, you know, flick over here to click your teammate really quickly to get a dispel or get a quick heal, and then you want to use cap, and then you have to flick over to the opposing screen or the opposing side of your screen to get a cap on someone. It just makes it really clunky and really weird. I don't know how some people can do it, but that's what I would recommend. If you want to improve in arena, you got to start keybinding things. As well, I have keybound, does it even show on this one? Like all my focuses, and I have target arena 1, 2, 3 keybound. Even though I don't really use it on my Resto Shaman that much, I do use focus all the time. So I think things like that would really help. And there's ways you can practice. Like if you're not used to using shear 1, 2, 3, you're not used to using hex 1, 2, 3, you're not used to targeting an arena. What I used to do when I first got these macros back in, I believe it was MOP, early on in MOP, I made a war game with 2 of my friends, and they just let me, we just went into the war game for like 5-10 minutes a day, and then they would go AFK, you know, grab a drink, go to the bathroom, things like that, and then I would just run around the arena while they're AFK, and I would just practice using my shears, practice using my hex, just so I can build up that muscle memory. So now when I do arena, I don't even have to think about it. If I did arena, I could play on Alt Z like this, and I would know all my buttons. I wouldn't even have to think about it. So that's what I would recommend for practice. And other than that, if you don't want to do the war games, if it's hard to do, then just go into twos, go into scrims. Because the more you practice, the more you're going to remember what buttons are where, when you should push it, things like that. And what I also really like about the shear 1, 2, 3 and the hex 1, 2, 3, I feel like as I developed as a player, it really helped my awareness, because now that I have access to these macros, I'm looking more at what are my enemy players doing. Oh, I see the mage is pushing up, so he's probably gonna, you know, a sheep. I should probably get ready to shear that. You know, a warlock's pushing up over here. What is he gonna do? Do I have shear? And it just made me more aware of everything. And that is how I improved, is because of these macros. I think that really helped my awareness overall. So that's just what I can give you for key binding tips. Be consistent. If you're doing new key bindings, you're doing new macros, new targeting, practice, practice, practice. Practice makes perfect. You're not going to get better at the game if you are practicing like 5 minutes a week on a new thing. If you want to get better, you have to play like, you know, you have to play like the pros. You have to play like the players with lots of experience and know what they're doing in order to improve. Because if you're not willing to do those things to increase your game by even 5-10%, then you're always going to be stuck at that current rating you are, and you're never going to potentially elevate your game. So that's what I can say when it comes to key binding.
I live inside my own world of make-believe. Kids screaming.